Welcome back. We're taking a look at tomorrow's newspapers with media journalist Vince Graff and Middle East commentator Nabila Ramdani. And as promised, before the break, we are going to start with the Sunday Times and their lead story, university entries in record fall. And this is after the huge hike in fees, which are introduced this year, Vince.
This is the biggest fall in applications for more than 30 years. On a small survey, 26 universities provided figures last week, and 15 reported a fall. But over those universities, 10% down on average in terms of applications, and actually one university, City University, saying applications down more than 40%. I think there's two things. I wouldn't be starting from here. I think part of the reason that there's no money for universities is because there are too many universities, too many people going to university. So, awful to say, but this isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Though it might not feel like that if the thing is, it is a bad thing because the people who aren't applying are not applying for financial reasons, but probably too many people are going to university, I believe. But I think the reason this happens is because there is a price tag, because you know how much you are going to owe at the end of your 3 years. I've never understood why the government hasn't just had some sort of graduate tax where they say, look, you won't owe a set amount of money, but what we will do is, for the next 15 years of your earnings, if you're above a threshold, you will pay 2 pence extra on your income tax, or 3 pence, or 1 pence, whatever it is. So you don't go in thinking, I'm already £25,000 down. You do go in thinking, for the next 10 or 15 years, I won't have quite as much beer money. And it's more of an abstract concept then, isn't it? You don't know how much you're going to earn, and when it just comes out of your salary, it's not missed as much as having that loan to pay back every month. But it will also, you know that it would stop at a certain date, and actually there is a stop date on this after, I think it might be 30 years. But I just think it's a crazy thing, because it does, though there's no upfront fee, it does feel like a burden around your neck, which it wouldn't do so much. Well, this is the system, this is the way it is, and Nabila, the worrying thing, I guess, for the government is that they said it wouldn't put off poorer people, but that's exactly what this survey is saying it is doing, and it's going to be the middle classes who will be reign supreme in universities.
Well, it's absolutely daunting to think that you are going to start in life with, a huge debt. I mean, it certainly would put an awful lot of people off getting a higher education. And even lots of middle-class people. I mean, maybe not the upper middle classes, but if your parents are teachers or something, I mean, it is a huge amount of money. Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, I won't. We've got lots to get through, so let's move on to the Mail on Sunday, which is another story that you've chosen. I know you want to rattle through these so that we can get them all in. But this headline here, demoted for not backing gay marriage. Tell us about this story.
Well, this is a housing manager who posted on his Facebook page that he didn't approve of gay marriages in churches in a very kind of non-confrontational way, but he explained why he didn't, in his view. He doesn't believe that this is the right thing to do. Now, I disagree with him totally. I mean, I think if there are churches who want to marry gay people and there are gay people who want to get married, the state shouldn't jump in between them and say, no, you can't do it. Similarly, if there are churches that don't want to do it, they shouldn't be forced to. But this does seem extraordinary.
Yeah. I think the key to stories like this is to take the sex out completely, if you will, and focus on the law. If something is illegal, is discriminatory and against the law, then it's as simple as that.
But he hasn't said he's a housing manager. He hasn't said I don't want to give houses to gay people. I won't give houses to people.
He just put this comment on his Facebook page, and that's it. And he's been demoted. He's lost
a pay cut from £35,000 to £21,000, and it does, on the face of it, if the facts are as presented, it does seem an extraordinary attack on his freedom of speech, to be fair. And it just seems...
Also a warning about what you put on Facebook, which we hear
all the time.
Or every other day, practically, don't we?
Absolutely.
But, you've got to be careful what you put out there, especially if you're supposed to be at work and you say you've got a hangover the next day. OK, let's move on to the Observer's front page. Tories at war over EU as sceptics told to sober up, and this is ahead of a debate in the Commons on Monday about whether or not we should be in the EU and hold a referendum on the issue.
Have you noticed how the people who think we should be holding a referendum on getting out of Europe are the people who thought it was an incredible waste of money to have a referendum on whether we should have change our voting system? It seems like a remarkable double standard. I'm generally not in favour of a referenda at all, because I think the reason we put politicians in Parliament is to make decisions that are perhaps, awful thing to say, a little bit too complicated for every kind of every man in the street.
But I guess
with
what's going on at the moment, the Euro debt crisis and the fact that so many of us feel that we're paying for something that isn't our problem, people are probably more interested than they were a few years ago in this issue.
Yeah, well, also I think all British political parties realise that this simple yes or no question comes at a really bad time when Europe is clearly facing a dreadful financial crisis, and you wouldn't have many people, sympathise. I mean, willing to remain in Europe if you ask them at this particular moment. I mean, there's every reason to want to get out of Europe. It's at the end of the day, it's run by unelected people. There's a lot of corruption involved. It's not quite transparent.
The MEPs are elected, but I think people take your point. Let's move on to, because I know this is a story we were talking about during the break, at the bottom of the Sunday Times, parenting classes for the rich. And this is the headmistress of one of the country's top girls' schools who's going to be offering parenting classes to the parents of children at her school. But we were just talking about this subject more generally, about whether or not parents should have parenting classes. Vince, you don't agree.
I think, kind of all of us turn up, or lots of us turn up before our kids are born to NCT classes to kind of... and I have no objections to that. And actually, it was marvellous, and we made some fantastic friends. And it's a great way of getting play dates with your kids as they grow up. And it's all and that's great, and I loved it. It was all fantastic. But, and this is not what the story is saying, but if the next step is the state jumping in and saying, oh, you've had a baby, would you mind going along, or you must go along, or here's some subsidy to go along to learn how to do it, I would take great offence. Who's going to be giving these lessons?
Yeah. What do you think, Nabila?
I think on a practical level, it's hugely important.
Of course it is. But who knows all the answers?
Well, I think there are professionals who can give you some sort of guidance.
There's lots of books out there with authors saying they all say
different things, and we all choose which books to read. And goodness me, we must be careful. Gina Ford, which became a kind of almost a religion in this country for a short while. And you have to word yourself very carefully because she's very touchy about what people say about her. But I have to say, personally, I found her theories awful, and I certainly wouldn't consider applying them in my house. Though that's only my.
Not sure how carefully worded that was.
Well, no, in my opinion, I wouldn't be adopting her methods. Though a lot of people swear by them, but I think they're fairly great.
Parenting classes. Well, we'll have to leave that one for now. Vince Graff, Nabila Ramdani, thanks very much for taking us through tomorrow's papers. Thank you.